Welcome back to Ozarks Fox AM. Have you all been curious ever about past life regressions? Well, Sean Paul is talking all about that today. Take a look.
Time travel has more than one theory behind it. For instance, have you ever wondered maybe who, what, where, and when you might have been in a previous lifetime? I don't mean to freak you out, but there is a belief among some, not all, that over the history of this planet, we're here more than once. One lifetime after another, we come back to the planet. Each time we're facing new challenges, learning new lessons, and the idea is that we evolve. And that brings us to this week. There's been some clinical studies where somebody regresses back and they start talking about details from a previous life. When they come out of that trance, they remember nothing, but all the notes are taken by the hypnotherapist. And in some cases, they've gone into the historical archives, into history, researched the information that that person said, and it proves to be completely accurate. And this is stuff that that person in this lifetime knows nothing about. So this week, we are talking to Nancy Vernon. She is the daughter of Dolores Cannon, who is arguably one of the most famous hypnotherapists on the subject of past life regression. She's written dozens of books and has been sought out worldwide for speaking engagements and lectures and classes. Well, Dolores is no longer with us, but Nancy was able to share with us the accounts of some of the most notable points in Dolores's career, including that day when she and her husband Johnny stumbled into this subject of past life regressions.
They had asked, my mom and dad were the ones who, my dad was doing the hypnosis. He had learned the technique, and a doctor had asked him to work with somebody on an eating disorder. I believe it was an eating disorder. And while she was under, he had mispronounced her name or something, and she replied, "I was that person once." And so they're both, huh? What? And there were no instructions telling you what to do because nobody had ever done that before. And so they started experimenting. And he just turned and said, okay, well, when I count to 3, let's go back to when you were whatever that name was. And so he counts to 3, and the person starts talking, not in the same voice style of the person that they are working with. They would pick up a different accent. This is where 5 Lives Remembered comes in, because they wound up going through 5 different lifetimes working with this woman.
Then there was the case of Katie, a young Arkansas girl who came to visit Dolores. Now, Katie was a simple girl, didn't finish high school, had a GED. And she sat down, the session began. She went into trance. And suddenly, Katie became Sudi, a young 12-year-old boy in Israel during the life of Jesus.
Mom would come home and say, "You got to hear the story I heard today." But in the book, Jesus in These Scenes, when she was working with, Sudi was his name.
Okay.
They were people from back at that time that lived in Qumran, a location where just up in the hills, in the caves, is where they found the Dead Sea Scrolls. Sudi described the community that he lived in, which was Qumran.
Okay.
The layout of it, different parts of it, and Mom found a picture of an archaeological dig, which is in the book. But in it, they're describing things differently than what Sudi said. You know, like this area was supposed to be a garden or something, and the archaeologist called it something else. And then she was getting ready to publish the book, and she said, "I don't know what to do because my definition of what this is all about doesn't jive with the archaeologist. They're the experts in the field. How can I go against them?" And I know I, for one, was one of the ones that told her, said, "This is your truth. Stick to your guns. Don't worry about what they say." And so she did. She published the book with her definitions, their picture, but her definitions of everything. A few years later, the archaeologists came back and said they were wrong. They changed it to is what was in her book.
It gets even more amazing. Then a guy came and had a session with Dolores Cannon. He transitioned into a man that lived in 16th century France. He told Dolores he was in class. He was a student of Nostradamus. And they were talking back and forth, and then all of a sudden the man stopped as if he was listening to something. And then he said to Dolores, "He wants to talk to you." Dolores said, "Who?" And he said, "Nostradamus." You saying your mom had conversations with Nostradamus,
Yes.
and it was via more than one subject.
Yes. Well, with this person, Nostradamus, of course, he was a great psychic. He turned to that student and said, "I want to talk to the person you're talking to." And of course, mom's like, "What?" And she's like, "Okay, I don't know what to do now." And he turned and told her, he said that there was a job he wanted her to do, and that was to translate the prophecies correctly. He said he saw that in our time, his prophecies had been brought down through time, but they were incorrectly translated. Yeah, because a lot of times the subject, she would ask a question, and the subject would put her hand up because he was talking to her. And then she'd say, "Okay, well, he says da, 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 da."
How long would you say your mother and Nostradamus's working relationship lasted?
It was a few years, because she's got the 3 books where she covered all of the quatrains and the information that he was wanting to get out there.
Nostradamus said, if we can just get through the decade of the 90s, we'll be okay. See, he saw this horrible war that he referred to as the Third World War. Because after the year 2000, we're going to be going into wonders you cannot even believe. But he saw the possibility of a terrible war that would be not only atomic, but biological weapons, chemical weapons, germ warfare, the most horrible things you can imagine, and he verified for us.
It'd be tough to make up any of these stories. They're unbelievable. I'd like to thank Nancy Vernon for taking time to share with us the amazing accounts and stories from Dolores Cannon's career. And if you want to check out her books that they've written throughout her career, they're available at ozarkmt.com. You should go there and check them out. They're amazing. And next week, time travel continues on Intrigue Journal with Juliana Fay and Project Pegasus.
Really interesting stuff. I mean, I don't know what to think about that. I mean, I don't personally believe in it, but there's some stories that's hard to, hard to understand.
My brain's too small for that.
All right. All right. Well, Sean Paul wanted to let everybody know. Could we roll the prompter there so I could see that? Yeah, there we go. That they talked about Nostradamus for 45 minutes, and he's going to put the full interview on his site. It was incredible. You can find that link on the website in the oddities section or on Sean Paul's website, intriguejournal.com. So that's very interesting stuff.
Well, at the end, she was talking about Nostradamus saying about, after 2000 we'll be fine. Well, 2001 was 9/11. And now
yes,
2020, COVID-19.
Yeah.
So obviously he wasn't that right.
Well, yeah, I know.
So I'm just saying, I don't know. I mean, I don't necessarily believe in that kind of stuff either.
Yeah, well,
so.
I'm with you on that. But
I'm just
it's
saying.
Very interesting.
But
Very
what
interesting.
I was thinking, before she even talked about that his prophecies were translated wrong, in my head I was going, well, some of the stuff he talked about did come true, but a lot of stuff he did talk about didn't come true.
I know.
So I'm wondering if he's talking to her through this magic or whatever, saying, well, it was just translated wrong.
Oh,
is
well,
that a reason why some stuff didn't happen, because it was translated wrong? I don't know.
I don't know. You could get in that whole thing, but interesting stuff. And next week, Julianne Fay's got some more of that. So
just an FYI, I personally don't believe in past lives.
I don't either.
I don't believe in that. I believe you're one person. Once you're here, and once you're done, you're done.
I agree with that.
But if I could come back as one of my dogs, I would. I spoil my dogs. I want to be spoiled.
An undisciplined dog that does whatever he wants.
Whatever they want to do, that's what I would come back.
Well, that's a good dog's life. I like, that's great.
I would be happy with that.
That's fine.
And
that's good.
I'm just saying, that's it. We look forward to Juliana Fay next week with her next story. I'm just excited when they can come back in and blow our minds and teach us some more magic tricks.
I love the magic tricks, and it is a trip. Magic trip is.
Sleight of hand.
But that's the whole thing. You have to pay attention. It is all about distraction.
Hey, what's that over there?
Squirrel.
Oh, you didn't fall for it.
I didn't fall for it. I'm paying attention.
Kelly, what's that over there? We'll be right back.
Okay. Chicken. It's butter chicken. That's what it is.
It is butter chicken. We gotta make sure Jake wants some. What?
What? It is a misleading